I think there's a giant move coming for uranium and uranium stocks over the next couple years. In this video, I'm going to summarize hours worth of research that I've done and show you the big setup that's slowly happening with uranium. As you can see in the chart right now, over the past 30 years or so, uranium prices have been all over the place. In 2001, they were around $7 per pound. Then in 2007, uranium went to $140 per pound. Then it slowly dropped all the way back down to around $20 a pound, and now it's back up to $53, and it has been uptrending pretty rapidly, especially this year. Now here's the thing, clean energy is all the hype these days. Everyone wants to get rid of, carbon, fossil fuels and all that stuff, and they want to transition to a cleaner future, a more sustainable future, and nuclear actually has a lot to benefit from that. Nuclear energy is actually 70 times, it actually emits 70 times less carbon dioxide than coal. On top of that, we can see from energy.gov that nuclear energy protects air quality because it generates power through fission, which is the process of splitting uranium atoms to produce energy. The heat released by fission is used to create steam that spins a turbine to generate electricity without the harmful byproducts emitted by fossil fuels. If we look a little bit more, we can see nuclear energy's land footprint is a lot smaller than many other forms of clean energy like solar panels or wind farms. We can see that a typical 1,000 megawatt nuclear facility in the United States needs a little bit more than 1 square mile to operate. On the other hand, wind farms require 360 times more land area to produce the same amount of electricity. And solar plants require 75 times more space. And then, we could also see nuclear energy produce minimal waste, blah, 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 right? The main point is that there is a growing trend to transition to a cleaner future, especially in terms of energy production. There are multiple ways to do this. We have solar panels, wind farms, hydroelectric dams, and a bunch of other things like that. But we also have nuclear energy. Now, here's the thing. Nuclear energy is used by the United States right now, as are other forms of clean energy. But the reason I think that nuclear energy especially has a lot to gain is, there's a couple reasons, but check this out. The first thing with hydroelectricity. In a lot of areas around the world right now, we are seeing severe droughts. Check out Lake Mead in the United States. This right here shows you what Lake Mead looked like in July of 2000. Take a close look at this lake for right now. And then I'm going to slowly shift it over. And as I shift it over, you will see what it currently looks like as of July 3rd of 2022. Watch this. That's insane. That's insane. 22 years. Look how big of a difference that is in terms of just like a satellite picture. That is insane. And while this is not good at all, it kind of limits the, I guess you could say, the efficiency of hydroelectricity. Like when we have droughts like this, hydroelectricity is not going to be as viable as an option for energy production. On top of that, solar is a growing industry. That's awesome. I also invest in solar. I'm not against solar, but they have had, or the solar industry and even like the wind generating industry has suffered a little bit from supply chain disruptions over the past 2 years. So a lot of these countries are going to start to look at nuclear options too. And I know nuclear has such a bad rep to it. Like, nuclear energy, no, we can never use that. But it's like, it's not as bad as it sounds. It's really not. But anyways, as we continue on, we can see that good news has been coming out not only in the United States, but all around the world related to the use of nuclear energy. The more nuclear energy is used, the higher uranium prices will go, for being realistic. Now, when news came out literally yesterday saying California lawmakers vote to extend the Diablo Canyon nuclear plant operations as state battles energy emergency. So here's the thing. Basically, California's kind of having a little bit of an energy crisis right now. basically what's happening is there's a ton of stress on the California energy system right now, and we can see that the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant currently provides 8.6% of the entire state's total electricity. Originally, they were trying to shut this down, but a last-minute deal went through, and this is going to stay open for another 5 years. So that's great there. Like I said, this plant alone accounts for 9% of the entire state's electricity. That's quite a bit. And then on top of that, I forgot to mention just a minute ago, with the Inflation Reduction Act, that also gives some tax credits to the nuclear industry too. So it's like, that's another thing that's a nice pro for the industry as a whole. But while we're talking about California, we cannot not talk about Japan and nuclear energy. Unfortunately, in 2011, March 2011, there was a horrible disaster in Japan where essentially there was a giant earthquake which made a giant tsunami and just destroyed multiple of Japan's nuclear reactors. So this was horrible. It's not good. And ever since this happened, Japan has been slowly shifting away from nuclear energy. Before this happened, Japan was the world's second largest nuclear energy producing country. Like I said, they've been shifting away from that, and nuclear energy has been kind of like a unpopular, I guess you can say, I don't want to say opinion to have, but it's been relatively unpopular with Japan for multiple reasons. But anyways, we could see that the Prime Minister of Japan says that he wants to reduce reliance on nuclear power as much as possible. Now, what the thing is, he'll say something like this, but at the same time, Japan has 10 nuclear power plants running right now, and they plan on having 17 running by next summer. So it's like, like when the Prime Minister says one thing, especially when it's, politically unpopular in that country, but then like his actions are pro-nuclear. So it's like the Japanese Prime Minister has some statements that are like not pro-nuclear, but then his actions are pro-nuclear. So that's interesting. It was worth mentioning considering Japan is an influential country when it comes to nuclear power consumption, especially. If we continue on, Germany actually had some very big news this week, and it's not good. We can see the chart per megawatt hour of electricity in Germany. This is actually sad. So for the first time, it broke 1,000 euros per megawatt hour. That is disgusting. That's horrible. In 2020, the price was only 50 euros per megawatt hour. These prices are running up at an unsustainable pace. Germany was way too reliant on Russia. It's as simple as that. Now here's the thing. Germany will come out and say, like, we could see that the economy minister of Germany publicly rolled out keeping nuclear power plants running. But here's the thing. If you continue to have your electricity prices exploding like this, you're not going to have a choice but to switch to at least some alternative energy sources. It's like, what we are seeing in Europe, and especially in Europe in terms of like inflation and energy costs and even energy costs around the world and everything that happened between Russia and Ukraine, that is only helping the nuclear industry because all these other energy sources are exploding in price. Okay, so that's another thing to keep in mind. Now, Germany has been pretty mixed on using nuclear power for a while, but, with energy prices running up the way they are, I don't think they'll have too much of a choice, especially if these prices keep running up. Another pretty big or pretty notable event that happened around the world is that South Korea signed a deal with Russia to help build Egypt's first nuclear power plant. This is a $2.25 billion deal. It did get a little bit delayed because of Russia invading Ukraine, but as of right now, the deal is still set to go through. If we continue on even more, we can see Indonesia eyes subsidies in nuclear power and renewable energy bill. Indonesia, the biggest thermal coal exporter, would subsidize renewable energy products and open its first nuclear power plant by 2045. And then also to help reach its net zero emissions goal. Like, that's the thing. Everyone's, pro clean energy nowadays. Nuclear is going to benefit from that. So keep that in mind. And then another news article from around the world. France to cut carbon emissions. Russian energy influence with 14 nuclear reactors. France is planning to build up to 14 nuclear reactors in an attempt to shore up the country's aging nuclear fleet while also reducing the country's carbon emissions. Again, and then while the first reactors won't open for years, the announcement could serve to undercut Russia's attempts to keep Europe dependent on natural gas. Another one, Belgium. Belgium reaches initial deal to prolong nuclear power by 10 years. Like, we're seeing very pro-nuclear events all around the world. And these uranium stocks are already running up, but I think they have a lot more potential to run up even more. Another thing, Swiss group to launch petition to rethink nuclear power plans. Basically, Switzerland has been kind of like shifting away from nuclear power over the years. And then we have a group of Swiss politicians, aka they form Stop Blackouts, and they're just trying to stop the shift away from nuclear. Another good thing is Camco, which is the world's largest publicly traded uranium company. Their CEO says the company is as busy as it has ever been, and it is signing a lot of contracts. Boom, love to see it. And then on top of that, of all people, we have Elon Musk himself. Elon Musk saying, actually just like a week ago, saying countries should be increasing nuclear power generation. It is insane from a national security standpoint and bad for the environment to shut them down. He also had many other comments like, also, nuclear is vastly better for global warming than burning hydrocarbons for energy. Hopefully, it is now extremely obvious that Europe should restart dormant nuclear power stations and increase power output of existing ones. This is critical to national and international security. So it's like we're seeing very, very good things around the world from, just countries around the world, states in the United States, the CEO of the largest publicly traded uranium company, Elon Musk himself, and then Michael Burry, of all people. This is actually a tweet from a couple years ago, but still, he said, if the government is going to spend $2 trillion, there's no better use than converting the U.S. to nuclear. So even he is pro-nuclear. Like I said, this is a little bit old, though. But even if we continue on, right, if I've convinced you enough that nuclear might start to grow in the future, let's say you're looking at some uranium stocks to trade. I want to say this. There are many uranium companies, many uranium stocks out there. I'm just going to show you my favorites. The first one being Camco. This is ticker symbol CCJ. Over the past year, it has been doing pretty well. We could see it has been basically in the range between $20 and $32 per share. Right now, it's around $29 per share, and just over the past week, just over the past couple weeks, it went from $22 all the way up to $29 per share. If we zoom out a little bit, over the past couple years, their low is around, I guess you could say like $5.50 or so. Right now, it's around $29, and if we zoom out a lot more, their all-time highs are right around $56 a share or so. They're starting to bounce back up on a technical level. They're looking pretty good. Increasing volumes coming in. That's awesome. So that's great. Basically, my holdings when it comes to uranium and nuclear, it's broken down into CCJ and then URA. URA is an ETF that has a bunch of different uranium and nuclear stocks in it. I have URA and CCJ. CCJ is actually it's the top holding in URA, so I kind of get like double exposure there. But the reason I'm also holding URA is because it gives me just exposure to more countries around the world and just more aspects of the nuclear industry. We could see by looking at this chart that shows which countries produce the most uranium. We can see that Kazakhstan and then Canada are like the two leading countries. CCJ is Canadian, and then Kazakhstan, basically if you buy the URA ETF, you get exposure to production in Kazakhstan. So you get access to just the main company in Kazakhstan for uranium. So I like that. In addition, with URA, you get exposure to a lot of other just aspects of the nuclear industry in countries around the world. So that's why I also scooped it up. But for me, looking at nuclear energy, given all of the reasons I suggested, all of the countries shifting more to nuclear energy, what we've seen around the world with energy prices exploding, not only in the United States, but all around the world. Like, we should not be seeing energy prices exploding like this, especially in Germany. From 50 euros per megawatt hour up to 1,000 over 2 years. That's unsustainable. They're like, in my opinion, it's just a matter of time before a lot of these countries, especially the ones that are, hit hard by rising energy costs, have to diversify more into other energy sources. So that's why I have been buying up CCJ and URA, and that's why I continue, and I will continue to invest into them more. Now, I want to say this. Do your own research. Uranium stocks they're not safe investments. They're definitely risky. I'm not a financial advisor. Do your own research, as always. If you want safety, buy bonds or something like that. Invest in T-bills. But for me, this setup with uranium and nuclear energy is worth the risk. But like I said, do your own research. I also think that this setup will not magically develop over the course of a month. I think it's going to take time. Like, we're not just going to wake up in a month from now and have uranium prices back up to $140 a pound. It's not like that. It's going to take time. It's going to take years. Okay, but I just wanted to share this with you guys, and hopefully the hours worth of research I did can open your eyes to something. Maybe I sparked an idea in your head to dive deep into one of these uranium companies or whatever. I hope you guys learned something from this video. I do want to point out that I actually got in these uranium stocks last week, as did a lot of the members of the StockedUp Discord chat. We actually got in CCJ calls last week, and they've been doing pretty dang good so far. So if you want to get in on some of these alerts before I post them to YouTube, check out that first link in the description and the comments down below. You will also get access to free day trades, swing trades, access to chat with me all day long, and a bunch of other great custom software. It is awesome, especially if you're into short-term trading. If you don't like it, you can cancel at any time. But like I said, we got into CCJ calls last week, and it's been doing pretty dang good. So definitely join up. It's worth trying at least for 1 month. There's access to so many great people and tools. But at the end of the day, I'm very excited about this setup that's happening with uranium. I think it has a lot of potential over the next couple years. If you disagree with me, that's totally fine. Let me know in the comments down below. I'm very excited though, and have a great weekend.